Mount Vision, it's in the town of Hartwick. So.
District 6.
Peter Oberacher, 292 Smoky Avenue in Skenevis.
District 7.
David Bliss, 2209 County Highway 33, Cooperstown, town of Middlefield.
District 8.
Andrew Marietta, 6400 State Highway 28, Fly Creek, town of Otsego.
District 9.
McCarty, 5509 U.S. Highway 20, East Springfield, New York, 133333.
District 10.
Daniel Wilbur, 760 Gulf Road, Burlington Flats, New York.
District 11.
Gary Koepnick, 105 Center Street, Oneonta, New York.
District 12.
Adrian Martini, 41 Cedar Street, Oneonta.
District 13.
Daniel Appin, 3 College Terrace, Oneonta, New York.
District 14.
Elizabeth Shannon, 82 West Street, Oneonta.
District 3.
Kathleen Clark, 121 Circle Drive, Otsego, New York.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business today is to elect a temporary chairman. Are there any nominations from the floor?
Nominate Mark Kennedy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of Representative Kennedy as temporary chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I declare Representative Kennedy temporary chair.
I would accept nominations for chair of the board of Otsego County Representatives.
I would like to nominate Representative David Bliss for the position of chairman for the Otsego County Board for the ensuing year.
Second.
Second by Representative Copeland. Do we do a roll call vote? Roll call vote?
Frazier?
No.
Farwell?
Aye.
Clark?
No.
Stammel?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Yes.
O'Racker?
Yes.
Bliss?
Yes.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye. Yes.
Wilbur?
Yes.
Koenig?
Yes.
Martini?
Yes.
Lappin?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Motion passes. 5,235 ayes, 993 noes. Chairman Bliss is duly elected.
Thank you. Thank you all for your support. We had a very good year last year, and look forward to hitting the ground running this year, doing a lot more good work with all of you. Okay, so we've done pledge. We are ready for privilege of the floor. Oh, vice chair. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yep. I'd like to entertain nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Gary Koepnick.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you need a roll call vote for that? Oh, we need a roll call vote for that. I'm sorry.
Frazier?
Aye.
Farwell?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Stammel?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
O'Racker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Martini?
Aye.
Lappin?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
6,228 ayes, 0 noes, abstained. Representative Koenig, vice chair. Congratulations. Okay, now we're ready for privilege of the floor. To remind you that try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
My name is Edward Doyard. I live in the hamlet of Welcome in the town of New Lisbon. First of all, I'd like to wish everybody a happy, healthy, and safe New Year. One item I've noticed, it's good to see that the Highway Department, the County Highway Department, went back to using sand with the salt. One item that a lot of people may not notice, if you ever follow a truck a little bit, a salt truck, or sander, I should say, you'll notice when they were using just salt, salt has a way of bouncing off of the road like there's no tomorrow. It's all, a lot of it goes to waste. That's why us taxpayers have to pay a lot more money for it, because you need a lot more tonnage of it. With the sand mix, it stays where it's put. So I commend the the Highway Department for going back to the old ways of doing things. Sometimes the new ways don't work. The old ways are better. Next item, I noticed, we seem to be embracing the the climate change scenario and everything there. One item on that that I can think of offhand is maybe the county should think twice about the wind generation aspect. Being that I don't know what the legal ramifications would be to the county approving any wind farms that might be put in regards to endangered species flying into them. I mean, I know when President Obama was in office, he approved for California, he gave them an exemption for killing bald eagles. They were allowed to kill, whatever amount it happened to be that flew into them. And I believe he also put something in for the California condors. I think there's only about maybe 200 of them in the world, and they all reside in California. But if one of them unfortunately flies into it, that's progress. We have bats and everything there. That white nose disease is eliminating a lot of them. There's a tremendous amount of them that fly into these wind turbines. Now, what is the answer? There may be a solution out there. I don't know what it is. Maybe some scientist will pull some idea out that'll prevent the birds from flying into them. I don't know. But it's something that maybe they, the county board ought to think about that and address that fact, just so that we don't end up with a costly lawsuit in regards to it for killing off endangered species. The other item I'd like to address is thank you, the county board, for obviously offering the privilege of the floor. It's a beautiful First Amendment right, and I think it's continued for all the years that I've ever had the opportunity to speak here, and it's something that we ought to embrace. We all have differences in all of opinions and things on different issues, but at least we do it here, it's in a civil manner. It's not like our colleges and everything, where the best thing is to riot or shout somebody down and shut them off. Embrace that opinion. You may learn something from it. And basically, that's something that that should be addressed, and keep it the way this is. Nice civil meetings where everybody can have their speak, have an opportunity to speak and voice their opinions. And a lot of the opinions, sometimes they're embraced, sometimes they aren't, for various reasons. But get all of the information before you form your opinions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to go next?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm Ed Gross from Wellsbridge, and I just have one question is all you members here voted for the 30% wage increase for the year? Is that a question I can ask, or?
You can ask, but we don't respond during public comments. It's a matter of public record. Yeah.
Didn't learn much, did I?
No.
Yeah, it's public record, so. You can continue.
Is it advertised that you were after this increase? I see nothing in the papers, nothing on the radio. that you were even asking for this.
Yeah, so it was part of the discussion. Oh, again, we're not supposed to comment on public. I'm sorry. Okay.
Not worthless.
You can continue to speak, but we don't interact. Thank you. Next. Yes.
Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year to 2019. This is probably my 50th appearance, more or less. Today, I'm here for the same reasons I've been here 49 times before. The discussion on the sale of my home, the ethical review, and that I was willing, way before the auction, not the day of the auction, but way before the auction, weeks before, to pay those taxes, fees, penalties, fines, even a year ahead of time. Just keep me in my home. I made the mistake. I'm owning it. Forgive me to pay. But that didn't work out very well, so now I'm going to read you the transcript from the court. Only 2 pages, should go under 3 minutes, and this is, I'm going to go all the way to the end, the crux of the matter, of why I am always so upset that no announcement was made at all. I'm going to paraphrase this. This is the court, which was in front of Judge Brian Burns. Mrs. Kakoma was there, I was there, Mr. Ahrens was there, Mr. Castani, my attorney, was there. I'll paraphrase it that he had a positive opinion of us. Mr. Ahrens, he'd seen us, and he had already had an opinion regarding his honesty, his diligence, and good work. And he understood, however, that the county has rights. So he was going to go before, this proceeding was going to go before another judge. So this is the court speaking. So the property can be presented at auction today, but the county will not be able to then transfer the deed from itself to any potential buyers until this matter has been heard by a neutral and independent judge. Mrs. Kakoma. That's fine, Your Honor. Mr. Castani. Could we ask that an announcement be made that when the property comes up for sale? I would assume you would have to do that anyway. Mrs. Kakoma. Yes. We have several properties in that situation, and that's what they do. The court. Okay. I will do my utmost to put that in an order and to get it to you folks by 11 a.m. I think that's when the sale takes place. Mrs. Kakoma. Yes, Your Honor, it does. But I can call and just have that put in at the end of the sale. It will give you a little time. Mr. Castani, do you want us to draw up the order, or do you want to draw it up? The court. If you could do it in a timely manner, that's fine. I was going to do it, frankly, because my typewriter and computer is 30 feet away from here. Mrs. Kakoma. I can do it right down the hall. Mr. Castani. I'm 30 miles away, but anyway. Mrs. Kakoma. I'll try to get it done by 11, but I assure you, I mean we will obey your oral order, is what I'm saying. The court. And again, I just want you to file the return, so whoever this file goes to ultimately will have everything, Mrs. Kakoma. And we will have that file at some point today, Your Honor. So the papers are done, but not quite assembled yet. The court. Completely understandable under the circumstances. Mr. Castani. We were hoping we wouldn't have to be here in the first place, so the court. Well, good luck, everybody. Thank you very much. And the proceedings on this matter were adjourned at 8:38 on 8/2014. Well, I'm here to tell you that order was not followed. Not at all. There was no announcement made. And my property was not put at the end of the sale. So you wonder why I'm annoyed? You wonder why I wonder why this was not followed? Here it is, in black and white, by Judge Burns himself. And then what followed was even more reprehensible. A co-worker bid on it, And then I was harassed for 14 months at my place where I lived, at 104 Filburn Road. 14 months. I was stalked, I was harassed, I was yelled at, I was cursed at, and I was obscenely gesticulated at by her, her family, the tenants, and whoever else she could get to sit across the road and watch me. 2 days later, we get a do not despoil order from this judge. Why? Why would I get a do not despoil order when I'm fighting to keep the home that I loved, where my husband and I worked hard, where he died? Did he think that, who pushed for this? Did somebody think I was going to like wreck it, burn it, destroy it? But I could tell you, I started removing things that belonged to me, that were, according to 3 attorneys I had spoken to, were not attached to the house or to the ground. And I get a do not despoil order. In the end, she thought everything was hers anyway, up to and including my beloved quarter horse. Now I ask you, is this justice? There's no consequence for not following an order from the judge, whether it's written or oral. I waited, and I'm going to quote Mr. Castani in this. I asked him 3 times, will it be made, sir? Will the announcement be made? And he said, Maria, Ellen is an officer of the court, and I trust it will be done as the judge said. Now while there, and I'm finishing up in 10 seconds, while there was a reporter who asked Dan Kroll, we understand that there's properties that are in litigation, and we understand, talking to the people, that an announcement is to be made. And he just sloughed it off to, you're going to have to talk to the legal department about that. So I ask you, I was shamed in the papers, I've been abused by the bidder. And now this is a co-worker. If it had happened here on the premises, there would have been a different reaction. But because it happened 20 miles away where I live, and nobody saw it, and nobody listened to me, and 3 sitting boards ago I spoke about this, it's in one of your books, nothing was done. This is an abomination. Mr. Force and I begged for weeks before to pay taxes. Other people had their properties returned. Resolutions, what was needed 5 minutes before, all of a sudden was not needed anymore. We don't need your vote, as Mr. Lindbergh and Betty Schwer told me. We don't need your vote. We can do it. What's legal is one thing, and what's moral and ethical is another. And Mr. Cooknick, I have to give you credit, Mr. Marietta and Mr. Stoneman, Ms. Farwell. When you have that little pinch, that little prick of conscience, is it ethical or not? But if it's legal, that covers everything. Where's your moral barometer? Please, do not be like the federals. They have destroyed whatever we have as far as ethics. This is Otsego County. We're different. We're people, we're human beings. We have consciences, and we have children, and we have neighbors, and we care about one another. This is all we have, is us. So I ask you, Ethics Board, and this is what I got. An oral order, and nothing followed. Thank you. Have a very happy New Year. Let's see what February brings.
Good morning, my name is Timothy Shore. I reside at 604 Billy Schward Road in Hartwick, actually the town of Burlington. And I came here this morning and I'm really astonished to hear what Maria just said. This morning was the first time I ever met her. I met Mr. Force twice. I met him a year ago this past August at the county fair, and I met him out on Long Island because I drive tractor trailer. I got me a load to go down there to Long Island specifically to get information from him. Because I've been following this for about 4 or 5 years now. About 4 years, I guess it was. And I'm really disturbed. A couple of months ago, Mr. Ruffles came out and he said he wanted to change the taxes to 3 years. Is that correct? It was 3 years. And what got me was How did Mr. Forrest lose his farm? Because he didn't owe 3 years. He only owed a year and a half, 2 years, max, which he offered to pay, which the county refused to take, but yet they made him put the money in escrow, which boggled my mind. Why would you have him put the money in escrow to pay his taxes if you weren't looking for him to pay his taxes? I'm a taxpayer. There's thousands of us all over the county. Any one of us could be caught up in this. I followed the foreclosure as it happened. I got it right here. You started the foreclosure in January of 2013, and he only owed 2011, 2012, or which would have been due what, by June 30th of 2013. So that makes 2 years. It's not 3. You want to change it to 3. The county or the county attorney said that it was, well, excuse me, Betty Ann Schwartz said it was 4 years consecutive. The county attorney said no. Mr. Ruffles wants to change it to 3 from 4. Can somebody decide on what this is? Because us in the public, we need to know. We need to know. Is it going to be 1, 2, 3? I think at this point, on Maria's behalf, I met Maria first thing this morning. First time I ever met her in my life. But I think at this point, this calls for an independent investigation on the how, who, what, and why this even happened. On her part, on Bob Force's part. We need representation. We need board members. If you've got people in your district that are behind on their taxes, why don't you go out and see them? Why don't you ask them, is there anything I can do before you lose your home? Let them know they're behind. Maybe some of them don't even realize they're behind. Maybe some of them have health issues. But you're supposed to be representing them. You should be out there helping them. Come up with a solution for them. They're your people. I'm Dan's. Am I not? You're right on the other side of the hill from me. And I've addressed this with some of you board members directly. I'm really disturbed by it. And I think it's time now that there be an independent investigation into this and find out how this happened in the first place. And that's what I'm calling for. Because I'm bothered by this, because I could be next. I could be on that chopping block. And one other thing that I've noticed, it's really simple to take mortgage-free property. And it seems to be that that's where it was directed at, was mortgage-free property. Because those people don't have a bank behind them to fight you. And they probably don't have the money to fight you because they spent all their money paying for their mortgage. I think something needs to be done. And I think today is the day that somebody do something. We're taxpayers. That's what we pay for. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best in the new year.
And as a frequent flyer, following his tailwind is good, but Tim, I think you're wrong in that I believe it's 2 years we've gone to. The treasurer could, yes or no? We want to go to 2 years to take them now? The absolute state minimum? And adding this company, which is going to be $330 to every property that gets taken, it's going to be added to the penalties. So it's going to make people that much tougher to keep their property. Going to the absolute state minimum. I mean, this is like a major money grab, and it's very disappointing to see the direction that this county's going in. Today's market, when I left, was down about 325. As a nation, which looks like we're in a dive bomb. And I'll just say what I'm thinking. Somebody, Little Missile Man or somebody, is going to hit us. And it's going to be the worst thing we ever seen. And we may have to collectively get together to survive what's coming at us. So don't worry about your new sidewalks or your projected 250 jobs. It would be nice if it came. We need to start taking care of the people that are here. I listened closely yesterday. We went down to the ceremonies down in Oneonta, and there was just one thing that troubled me with Jim Seward's talk, and that he mentioned young people. What can we do to keep young people here? I was young once. I was here, I left, I came back here to raise my children. They really can't come here. There's not a lot here. So it's kind of disappointing. Don't forget us older people, the widows, the ones. I'd like to work together with this treasury. They know what I do. If you go to a house and you find somebody that doesn't know what's going on, please let somebody know. Us, the Office of the Aging, we need to be helping one another. Now on the raises, I did a little studying, just like y'all do. We're very fortunate here. I believe the average would be maybe representing around 4,000 people per person here. That doesn't click with the big boys up like in Onondaga where you got thousands, 30, 10,000, 20,000 people. So you can't compare your salaries to theirs. I commend you. You can get a raise. You probably deserve it. You're already doing quite well. If it was my choice, here, county manager, don't forget this one. I wore the badge. So maybe I should throw my hat in the ring since I've been around this county for a long time. But moving ahead, we should probably go back to supervisors. Some of you in this room, chairman included, has been a town supervisor. Who best knows what their town needs? And using the Sullivan County model, 9 supervisors, a county manager, all those people that they have down there a little bit bigger than us. Last thing I'm leaving with, again, is our code of ethics. That's our law here. Here's article number 4. Disclose confidential financial information acquired in the course of his or her official duties, or use such information to further his or her personal interests. 4 rental houses is a business. This was an immediate neighbor. When I would get a tax bill, I was living with Maria, and we would go up and check her mail. I got my tax bill. She didn't have any tax bill in her mailbox. I said, what's going on here? And I was suspicious. I think it's just like what's happening with the Amazon packages. When you live in the middle of nowhere and people know exactly where you are, watch your mail. I'll never go to a postal box like that in front of my house again because it's unsafe. Red flagging is what they call it. That's when people come by and they just grab checks out of the mailbox and rip people off. So you have to watch out because the next thing, it could be you. And in 2 years, that's just too fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Approval of minutes from December meeting, December 5th and December 14th. So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Presentations, petitions?
I received the general project plan from ESD for the City of Oneonta Stevens Hardware Building Restore New York 5 project in Otsego County. There will be a public hearing at the county office building in this room on Tuesday, January 8th from 2:30 to 3:30. I also have the general project plan from ESD for the Brewery Omegang Hospitality Center Capital Project in Otsego County. Public hearing will be Tuesday, January 8th, 1:30 to 2:30 in this room as well.
Thank you. No special presentations today. Reports of standing committees. Public Works, Representative O'Brien.
Thank you, Chairman Bliss. Good morning and happy 2019 to everyone. Some updates here for Highway. Since my last update, the crews have been out ditching and patching, cutting brush when they're not sanding and plowing, and the key words there are when, not sanding and plowing. We've not really experienced more than 2 days in a row since November that they haven't been out treating roads moving forward. So, and ice that come out are just as taxing, if you will, on our crew and budgets as anything else. But they're out there doing the job and doing a very good job, and it's great to hear from our constituents that their approval with that. The shop is moving forward with getting ready for spring, believe it or not, and we are working on getting the equipment ready to go. We're not working on the plows. We have some challenges coming up in the office side of things at Highway with a lot of just paperwork, contracts, grants, anything that can be associated with paperwork that helps us either, secure funds, working through engineering, those type of things. So one of the challenges moving forward would be to try to help alleviate some of the stresses there by finding someone to, or an entity there to help out when it comes to the paperwork side of things. We've had a couple of repairs. The Gilbertsville, we had a telephone line got pulled down in Garrettsville, things of that nature. So just I guess business as usual, moving forward. We're still awaiting for the New York culvert project on County Highway 16. DOT keeps requiring that this is a federal aid process, even though there is no federal aid involved. I mean, it's almost like a scene from the Twilight Zone, as far as I'm concerned. But we're still trying to get that worked out. We're working on some of the preliminary designs still to get that back, and we are waiting to hear back from the engineering on a timetable and a cost with that. So from Highway's perspective, again, things are working well. In addition to the weather and other situations that are against us. Building and services, things have actually been, I'll use the word, I don't want to throw this off into issues with myself, but building services has actually been pretty good. Nothing major coming up, just doing some basic repairs, cleaning of the sidewalks, plowing, things of that nature. The tiny homes project is again still moving forward, albeit slowly due to some weather right now. Some more updates at the next meeting moving forward. And we did also, I did have an opportunity to meet with Ellen on the contract for the tower management services. We had a pretty in-depth look at what the contract, some of the proposals that were there, some of which I think collectively we agreed aren't going to be in the best interest of Otsego County, so we were looking at making some changes, making some recommendations back to them. So that process is moving forward again, and it's something that I'm hoping to finish up here, depending on committees, structures and things of that nature, by the beginning of March anyway, to get something like that. And then the parts situation at Highway, I just thought of that as well. Public Works has been, and probably will continue to look at and discern whether we want to bring it more or less back in-house again as an in-house process where we have our own point of presence, taking care of parts and working through that. The Gillies proposal came in, and I won't say it was expensive, but it was definitely more than I think I had anticipated. So we're going to be looking at, or I should say, Public Works. I think we'll be looking at that moving forward to come up with a path there. I think that's pretty much everything that I have to report. I do not have a date because we do not know the committee, so I don't have to forget to throw the date out there. And as I said before, when we had our last Public Works, I did want to again thank the seated Public Works Committee. They did an excellent job, in my opinion, moving forward with a lot on our plate. So good things coming hopefully for 2019. I'll answer any and all questions to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Representative Rocker. IGA, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Chairman Bliss. IGA committee met on the 11th of December. And at this time, I would like to thank the 2018 IGA committee. Spent a lot of time together. We had 2 meetings per month. Representatives Marietta, Overacker, Farwell, and Shannon all worked diligently on the IGA business this past year in 2018, and I believe we made a great deal of progress covering the issue of county governance. We had several guests in to discuss different models for county governance. We had 2 trainings with Stephen Aquario from NISAC, and I feel that we opened up that discussion and learned a lot in the 12 months of 2018, and hope that we'll build on that through 2019. We also began a discussion of energy talks and energy task force within the county, which has sort of moved out of from IGA into in the true nature of being intergovernmental. We have government elected officials from Oneonta on that 5-person group that is going to be kind of spearheading that effort. And I have had some representatives contact me with questions about that energy task force, and I did respond with the names of the people who are sitting down and discussing that right now: Representative Farwell, myself, Bob Wood, the Town of Oneonta supervisor, Leslie Orzetti, the director of OCCA, and Greg Mattice, who is an engineer with the City of Oneonta. And I will be happy to go into in depth with anyone as questions arise. At our December 11th meeting, we did spend several hours being in the discussion for the the trolley bid for the Village of Cooperstown, and we successfully did award that bid to Leatherstocking Trolley. We are hoping to rebuild ridership within that program, and Leatherstocking Trolley made a good case for being able to help us achieve that goal. We didn't have our second meeting of the month in December, and as hopefully the IGA committee will see fit to reschedule with NISAC and continue with our 3rd training as promised by Stephen Aquario. We did spend the last portion of the meeting discussing the duties of committees and committee chairs, which I think was very helpful in just broadening out our base of knowledge, making us more effective representatives on the county board. And thank you, Ellen, for spending that time with us. I think it was time well spent. And if anyone has any questions, I will be happy to answer them now. Kathy.
It's not really a question, it's a concern on the Energy Task Force. I asked this before. I think we should have members of the business community, as energy is a key role in economic development. And, you know, there's people from the business community, either through the chambers or people. I mean, I look at somebody like Russ Southard to join it. He's a member of the council in Oneonta, and I don't know if you've approached him. He also works for one of the energy companies.
Right, and we are in the process of, and it's been we're working, I know it's at the speed of government, but that is really what we're working at. It's a very slow pace getting people, building it out to the 2nd level of membership. And I do take your point. I do think it's the best, there's many people out there who could help us have this conversation, and we'll be forthcoming with some of those names in the very near future.
Okay, because I think the word in the community is that there isn't an interest to hear their point of view. because they are not represented at all on these. It's just elected officials.
Well, at this point, Michelle and I have also been participating on the Otsego County Chamber of Boards energy discussion meetings, and there are many members of the business community sitting at those meetings, and we are open and available to discuss and also to answer questions at that time. So
when do you anticipate recruiting new members?
Within the next month, I would hope.
If I could just add, the Chamber Energy Group is having an energy summit on the 31st of January from 10 to 3. That's being put together by Barbara Ann Hegan.
Who is that?
At the Otsego.
Sorry, I don't have it written down here. And thus far we have a draft mission statement for the group, and so I'll read that to you. The Otsego County Energy Work Group and resulting energy plan will address the needs of the community to become energy secure and resilient while taking into consideration the long-term health of citizens, economic growth, and environmental sustainability. So just as a reassurance that the economic development component is going to be central, I think, as it has to be.
Any other questions? Thank you, Representative. Kennedy. Human Services, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on December 12th at 1:30. And let's see, approved a bunch of contracts which are in the agenda for today. Also in the agenda for today for your approval are a number of personnel changes, again, more reorganization to become more excuse me, nimble and efficient, also to actually reorganization of the organizational chart of the department as such, so that it makes a little bit more sense. Everything you see in the agenda today that is a change in DSS positions is in the budget, and the reimbursement formulas are for each one is in the minutes. As we do every month, we approve non-mandated training, which is usually pretty extensive. This job in DSS is not a job that you could just get started right away. There's an enormous amount of training to start with, and also things change constantly, and so there's an enormous amount of training, and we take a look at that every month. Talked about departmental policies for a while, and also Eve told us that she's working with Andrew on the strategic plan for the department, focusing on 4 areas: personnel, housing, JD pins, and security. Speaking of which, did I mention that? We are, oh right, one of the contracts that we're dealing with is extending our security contract for the Meadows, which is the responsibility of DSS. I'm sure you know that. And we extend it to the end of February. By then, we should have a long-term contract in hand. The process is going forward, but we just need to extend what we've got for 2 months to finish that out. Tiny homes are continuing to be worked on. They're building them down at Delhi Tech. And as Pete said, it's going slow, and the weather is not helping. But that's it. Everything else is in the minutes. Please ask any questions you might have. Our next meeting will be determined today, I guess, when we hear who the members of the committee are and decide on a date.
Any questions? Okay, Public Safety and Legal Affairs, Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on December 13th.
The sheriff came in, we approved a whole list of blanket purchase orders for him. We also approved the ARI fleet services for repairs of the vehicles. That's resolution 13 today. We approved the sheriff hiring a deputy sergeant and full-time and a part-time sergeant. We went over a jail RFP, where that is. This is taking a long time. Moving forward, whoever's on that committee this year, hopefully that's a priority. Art Klinger, Victor Jones, and Rob O'Brien came in. We had an extensive conversation on the possible need for countywide EMS services, where we're lacking, where we can improve, and how we can do it. That's should be another priority of this year's committee. Ellen Kakoma came in with Gar Gazzigan and Jim Ferrari, our assistant public defenders. We had a conversation on moving the public defender's office forward until there's a full-time public defender appointed. Mr. Gazzigan, Mr. Ferrari will be running the office for us. Denise Oliver came before us from Child Advocacy. We approved Brian Picorni training on mobile device forensic software training to help her out in the future. I also have been having very recent conversation with Rob O'Brien regarding Frontier and problems with phone service, landline service in certain areas of the county. Rob is on that. I even spoke to him again this morning and yesterday. Frontier's their response has been unacceptable. They need to do better, and we need to hold them to the fire to make sure they do. The ATI board is January 17th, right here in the boardroom at 9 a.m. Our fire advisory board is January 21st, 7 o'clock in the emergency training room. I'd like to thank the committee, our committee members this year, very trying year, very responsible. Hopefully going forward we can get something done with the training center and the jail upgrades. Any questions? Yes, sir.
More of a, not so much a question, but on the Frontier issue, I would like to see either the new committee for public safety or the board at that level send a letter to Public Service Commission in regards to the Frontier situation in Morris.
That was one of the options or requests that at the public safety level, that Frontier gets a letter to the Public Service Committee, and Rob, I think the FCC can be involved there. Right. So that is in progress, and that would be a strong recommendation. Good idea.
I don't know if this should be for Ed or for Pete, but the jail renovations RFP, where are we with that? This committee was informed of.
The last update that I got from both our purchasing agent and I forget the name of the company there, Labella, thank you, was that there was certain language that needed to be worked out between Labella and the purchasing agent, and that's the last I heard of it. Andrew Trombley did say that he was going to try to get that done by the end of the year. It's the end of the year and it's not been done. So from Public Works perspective, I will reach out again to Andrew and see if there's something that we can't do to move this thing forward, because like I said, it had to do with specific language for some of the repairs that were being requested. That was the last update I got from Andrew.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Health and Ed, Representative Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee met on December 10th and then again briefly on the 18th. Primarily, they were approving a number of contracts and making some appointments. Some of the noteworthy ones were for Cornell Cooperative Extension, approved the annual support of $160,000, as well as extending the contract with the Ag Implementation Specialist. The committee also had the opportunity to meet the newly hired person in that role as well. For Tammy McDonald, Office of the Aging, we approved a number of contracts, including with A.O. Fox Adult Daycare Center, Elm Park Methodist Church, Legal Aid Society, Planet Staffing, Rural Health Network of South Central New York. Those are all for one-year terms. For Sue Matt, we approved the receipt of some funds, sort of a surprise bit of money, which is always good. Pay for performance funds. Renewed a number of contracts for psychiatric services, as well as services with LEAF, paid for with 100% state aid, as well as Springbrook, Family Resource Network, the Neighborhood Center, Inc., Mobile Crisis Assessment Team, Otsego, several other contracts. Those are for the 2019 year, so we're set moving forward. Again, a number of appointments to various local boards for the 2019 year. Touched on the Cornell Cooperative. I think those were the high points. Happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions?
Yes, I just had a question about the implementation specialist. The previous position was shared with Otsego 2000, so it was like a full-time job. I haven't met Jim Barber yet, but I just wondered, is that just a dedicated part-time position now, or are they splitting that position in some? Because I know Otsego 2000 no longer involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same terms of the contract. The same terms were extended from the previous contract.
I can answer. Jim expressed an interest in remaining on the farm since he's still there part-time.
Okay.
And so rather than working at the farmer's market at Otsego 2000, he's going to spend half his time on the farm. And then half his time.
Okay, great.
I have a question as well. This one just is delving into the details of the contract with that Ag Implementation Specialist. We had talked about having specific deliverables that we wanted to have kind of benchmarked as we go through the year and built them into the contract, and I just was wondering how we were doing on that, or if we had had that language in there.
So what we thought would be most effective would be to kind of design it within the Ag Committee, and then have Jim kind of figure out what he is capable of doing.
Okay.
And then send it back out to us to look at.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Sweck, Representative McCarty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on December 13th. We also met Mr. Jim Barber, the Ag Specialist, at that meeting. Give some background. We also approved $165,000 that's in the budget to go to soil and water, which is resolution number 15. Also, there was approval to consider Casella's request to have a 10-year contract with a 5-year extension. Some of the reasonings for that was that Casella thought they could be willing to do some long-term improvements to the transfer stations if we had a 5-year or 10-year partnership with the county. So that was discussed. Jordan Clements came in and gave a report regarding Governor Cuomo's announcement that the state is dedicating $3 million for a study to reduce community flood risk. The 3 watersheds in Otsego County will be included in And for the grant, the application would be Butternuts, Cherry Valley, and Otsego Creek. And Karen gave the report for the solid waste for the month. Tammy Harris reviewed the Climate Smart Community Model Resolution, and we went over that, and there's a resolution today to adopt that, resolution number 35. Also, we looked at pictures that Jody Taylor took of the transfer stations and some of the contaminated bins for recycling, and whoever the new committee is next year needs to kind of look at that problem, because we need to clean up our recyclables. And we meet again, or somebody will meet again next month, or this month. And I'd like to thank the committee. I think we accomplished a lot this year.
Any questions? Quiet bunch tonight. Admin, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By now, you've heard many of the issues that were brought to the admin committee meeting, which we met on December 19th. And at this point, again, I'm going to thank the admin committee for 2018, Representatives Oberacker, Fraser, Hotnick, Stammel, and McCarty. We spent many hours together working through these admin issues. And one of the things that I think that we did that doesn't always make a resolution, it's building to make a resolution, but we have been spending time looking over the rules of order that govern us as a body. And if you looked at the minutes, you'll see that we did spend, it doesn't tell you how much time, but it was about 40 minutes on rules of order, and we discussed rules 2, 4, 5, and I'm not going to go into which ones all these are, 9, 23, 40, and 10. Some of them, just to hit the high points, discuss quorum, that we should be using the number of weighted votes to meet as for meetings of the full board based on quorum, not on person. So just some of these things are kind of what we would call housekeeping details. And then other ones are more call for more discussion and more input from the membership. So we will keep admin, hopefully will continue to look at these as we go through 2019. So the high points of the administration committee, we had almost, it seemed like every department came in December, but we did have Board of Elections, the Community Services, Susan Mack came, and as Andrew mentioned earlier, the $96,000 for pay for services was approved to be deposited into their transitions account. Many contracts getting set up for 2019. The Department of Health, we accepted $20,000 more into a grant from the Rural Health Network of South Central New York to build capacity with regards to transportation. Appointments to boards, and just that those boards are, I just want to say it's appreciated the time that people spend going to those boards. It's time well spent, and on the behalf of the county at no compensation, so thank you to those people who accept them. We also reviewed the agreement with Cornell Cooperative Extension for $160,000 and did pass that resolution as well, number 3 today. The Otsego County Soil and Water contract also was approved for the $165,000. We approved to pay our NISAC dues, and we also approved the funds for several of the representatives to attend the NISAC meeting in Albany on the 28th and 29th, and all representatives are encouraged to attend at some level, and $500 or above requires approval from the committee, but to attend is of benefit as a representative, and that is the 28th and 29th, and it does go to the 30th in January. So it's not too late. The next admin meeting can approve anyone else who wishes to go.
Is that Desmond?
Yes, yes. We also approved the $25,000 that has already been discussed today for that ag implementation specialist, and did discuss the stipulations in the contract, which I questioned earlier this morning. Yeah, we're still in the morning. The sheriff also, as Representative Frazier outlined, his purchase orders and contracts. The IT department, we approved of antivirus software and document management software, both very current issues, and glad that our department is meeting the demands that we have such protection in place. Many highway discussions, as Pete Oberacker has already brought forward today. Social services, as Representative Kotnick listed, and the county attorney. And we, and just to make a note of this, because the real property, we did approve the deputy director position, which had fallen out during the budget discussions. It had already been approved, and it went out during budget, but we, after further discussion with Mr. Schecker, we felt that for his succession plan for his department, it was important that we take into account his request to have an additional person in the office. And so any questions that you might have with why did we do that, that's why we did that. We approved the trolley contract as discussed during IGA's report, and the county treasurer discussed closing the last few accounts on the manor, and introduced us to the gentleman who will be working on the cost allocation plan for the county, and just we approved of the contract with the municipal software, which is part of our shared service plan with the counties, and some budget transfers, and that closed out our 2018 year. So now, any questions?
I have one on the deputy director position.
Yes.
We're not really hiring another person, correct?
Actually, if the current director chooses to move a person into that who's already in-house, and I'm not saying exactly that I know what he'll do, he's going to post for the deputy position, but the new position, he'll fill the deputy position as he sees fit as a department head, which will free up another position. And we've also already approved another position that will be shared between IT and real property as they plan to transition all the tax bills going back into real property rather than being, currently the work is being done by someone in IT. So I do have this written down in a very concise way, if you want to do it.
Yeah, because it seems like we're creating funding and filling a position, and unfunded stipend that was given to that person.
Oh, well, the stipend is going away. The stipend is going away because it turns out that what Mr. Schecker really needs was a body in the office, not a person in a figurehead position. He needed to have another person to do the work.
So this money was not in the budget that we passed. So where is this money to fund a new position coming from?
The paperwork was signed by the treasurer and the personnel office. So I'm going to guess that it will be, there is some way to put it into the real property account. So the personnel for real property consists of a director, which we currently have, Hank Checker. They will create a principal account clerk. This is to transition the tax bills from IT into real property. 3, created deputy position. 4, an assessment manager. And 5 is a GIS specialist, which they already have. So our previous discussion was going to keep him at 4 people, which wouldn't really allow enough leeway to transition into with the workload that he was expecting and needed to have a 5th body in the office. He made a compelling case, and we felt that we should have, personally, I wish that we had called him up to talk to us during the budget discussion. But hindsight being as it is, we didn't. So this was the next best approach, I felt.
So we already have a principal account clerk type is there. We're talking about adding, there's a $38,000 principal account clerk type is in this department currently.
Okay, what they have now is called an assessment manager.
So that's the top one. Then go down to the very bottom if you're on the budget.
Oh, I'm actually just on my notes.
All right, I'm actually looking at the budget, and it says they had some of the position, principal account clerk type, is they were provisional, that's $38,800.
Okay, I think that if we are going to go into this level of detail, that we should not overlook the fact that we could call Hank Checker up to answer the questions, because this is going beyond my knowledge of his department, and which I admit it's really superficial compared to what I would need to be able to answer your question, I'm afraid.
Okay, but the money being appropriated for this position is coming from where? That is the purview of admin.
Yes, and I was told that we would be able to afford it. Where exactly? Oh, Alan, could you please address the question for me? Your time position in real property, and since the position was not in there when the budget was approved, where is the money coming from to pay the deputy?
So that deputy is going to be, it's not going to be the whole position because there'll be some. So the hope is that, one, you could do a budget mod and hope that you get more sales tax. You could do that. You could take out a contingency, or what you could do, you just fund the position, and maybe it takes a little while to hire the other position, and you have money left over in the personal services line. Or if everything's hired, that line is negative at the end, and you make it up with maybe his material and supplies line is less at the end of the year. Maybe this line is less, but there's no magic number. The money's coming from here. It could come from a number of sources. You could, like I said, budget mod, you could just see what happens, and maybe in June or July that line's getting low, and then you do a budget mod then.
Money isn't there, it's going to be taken from somewhere else, hoping that we don't use the money that has been budgeted correctly.
Or like I said, yes, if the money, so let's say we choose right now, hey, listen, but whether you approve, let's say we're going to approve the position now, let's wait, maybe sales tax is doing super well. Hey, now we're going to do a budget mod and increase that a little bit. Maybe, like I said,
I understand that process, Alan,
yeah.
And my question was, where was the money coming from? Had it been allocated? Is another position going to be abolished? And we're just hoping we have some money left and at this point in time, at the very first week, we're going to. And the cost of that position that's not funded in the budget is how much money are we going to be looking for?
So I believe the debt is $43,000.
Plus benefits?
Yep, I believe it's $43,000. Will be an MSC position, so it's going to be benefits. So roughly
$75,000.
17-ish thousand for MNC. So I mean, oh yeah, and then you've got to add in the fringe and all that other
Which
stuff.
we did discuss this at admin.
Yep.
So it's about $75,000. Generally, it's about a 70% cost of benefits when you add all that in on a
Yeah,
On
so
a
I would say 43,
48,000,
and I'd say add another, I'd say, yeah, 70,000.
And currently, there were 2 unfilled funded positions in real property.
In his
that
office.
have not been filled in a number of years. If we were doing this during the budget, I would think that we had discussed the net impact if it had been done during the budget season. Abolishing those positions.
So,
But
those positions are not currently funded either in this new budget.
Nope, so Hanks, so when we met here at the budget workshop and we went over this, if it was approved as is, which it was, the real property office from 2018 to 2019 actually decreased $24,000. Once you got rid of both those positions and then added, you were going to add in a little bit. You added in the stipend and other things. So it actually decreased $24,000 from last year.
But because
so there's
we're
a decrease.
looking at it
Because we took out
as a separate...
positions that were constantly funded but not filled in many departments.
Yes, because you took out a bunch, yes, because he had those 2 positions that were not filled, that he had tried to fill and they had not been filled out. I mean, I think he said that the salary was too low and people would not
So
take.
in the reorganization of the office, the net effect was
A negative,
not
yes.
50,000.
It was a negative.
Okay. First, Ellen has some.
Well, I just was going to say that, so there's certain paperwork that's required to come to my office in order for a resolution to be on the agenda, and Hank didn't finish getting the signatures on that until today.
Oh, okay, so this is actually not...
this position is not on for today, but it will be on at this point for next month unless you all change it.
So we're having our discussion nice and early. We can get all the questions answered by the time it comes up to actually be voted. Thank you. Thank you, Ellen, for giving us a whole month.
So then so then if that's the case, I'll get actual numbers. I'll pull exact, that was kind of off the top of my head real quick.
All right.
Want to know for you?
Okay.
How often do we add positions and not know where our money's coming from? I'm not sure the time I've been on the board that we've done this before.
That's a tough one, yeah. Where would the money be coming from? I think what they're looking at is if that tax billing position gets pushed into Hanks. I think he wants the revenue from IT, but it's all county money in the end. Whether the revenue goes from one or the other, it is what it is.
Okay. As I remember, this was on the agenda and we were supposed to do it in November on admin. And there was a misunderstanding in terms of the structure of the new department. And so we had to redo it in December, but between those 2 times, of course, the budget was approved. And so that was part of the reason that this is a little unusual.
Yeah.
And that's why we've started, listen, no more creating positions outside of budget, because then this stuff gets lost in the mix here.
Not a precedent.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one comment on that, and I'm hoping to go to the department head meetings. Some people understandably start to plan early for the next year, and that's great. But if people want to create positions for like 2019, they have to go to budget first. They have to get the money. And we did have a few people, and I don't always catch everything, that tried to create positions like in August. And there was one department who did that, but we pulled it. You can't create a position in August for the following year until you go through budget. Then once the money's in the budget, you'll see today, like with DSS, they got all their money in the budget and they have all these, all these positions that you are now saying create, unfund, or whatever. And that really is how how it's supposed to work. So I think what happened, part of what Hank was trying to do was kind of put the cart before the horse. So, and now we're at the point where even though now it was approved, he didn't get all the paperwork in. So I just want to mention that any of you in your committees, if someone comes to you, like in June or July or August and says, for 2020, I need this position, say, great, let's talk about it and let's include it in the budget, but we're not going to create anything yet because obviously you don't know what money's going to be left in the budget.
Yeah.